I can bring in Minister Puri here. You normally talk about the demand side of India because of the growth, but I'd love to have you share your insights on exploration and production and what you're trying to achieve here in India. I'm very aware of your natural gas fields, and I know a lot of the investors that have gone into that market. What do you see here as a potential of the E&P market for this audience today in the room?
Thank you very much, John. I think you want me to come straight to the E&P side, but I would like to set that in the context of our own demand. Today, we consume 5.6 million barrels of crude a day. If I go by the estimates of organizations like OPEC, some others based elsewhere in Europe, they say that in the next 2 decades, 25% of the increase in global demand will come from India. And I think it's an OPEC estimation that by 2045, that's 2 decades from now, India will be consuming 11 million barrels of crude per day.
You're the belle of the ball in that time frame.
It's not surprising. We have a large population base. We are growing at 6.5%. Energy, or an assessment of the energy consumption, is always a reasonably good indicator of how the economy overall is faring. And I think the Indian situation, the facts speak for themselves. Before I go to E&P, let me also tell you that we have an additional challenge in the sense that we have developmental challenges. We have a population of 1.4 billion people. We supply clean cooking gas, both the cylinder, LPG, which is a product of refineries, and natural gas from pipelines, to something like 330 million people in the first category, households, okay? Now, if every household has 4 people, that's 330 million connections, that takes it to 1.4 billion, near saturation, and we supply the cylinder gas for as little as 7 or 8 cents per day, if you're the beneficiary of a governmental scheme. If you're not, then that also is at about 15 cents, which is very reasonable. I think they're now the most reasonably priced cooking medium, clean cooking medium supplied by any country to its population. On E&P, I think that's where the real story is now, because the rest is fairly well documented. John, we have 3.5 million square kilometers of sedimentary basin. 1 million square kilometers of that sedimentary basin was hitherto regarded as a no-go area, because different parts of the system, the Navy, Coast Guard, defense organizations wanted it all exclusively to themselves. We changed that, as we changed a large number of other things. In 2016, we went from production sharing contracts to revenue sharing contracts. We have a new law which I think embodies the best practices of any country. We took it all together, had wide stakeholder consultations, and the new law is attracting attention. The major national oil companies, the major players in that field are there. In what we call the open acreage licensing policy, round 9, 38% of the bids which came into this 1 million square kilometers, which we just opened up. Now we've opened up something like 250,000 square kilometers plus of bid in the 10th round, which is, I think, the largest, or one of the largest ever globally. And my expectation is that 80% of the bids will come in that area.
Wow.
Now, what is different now? What's happening in the Andaman Sea? What's happening in other parts of India offshore? I think one thing is that we have, taking into account the global reality, we are inviting our partners to come in, those who have expertise in seismic surveys, for instance, offshore, to come in as technology partners, for which they will be compensated for the services or technology that they provide. And if, of course, you strike oil, you have the right to first refusal. And that policy is working. Equally, some of our existing facilities, I know that one of the major oil companies is teaming up with ONGC to, re-energize that facility. What I see happening is that the new emphasis on E&P is what is producing the change. The people around this table, more than anyone else, know how costly it is. You dig one offshore well, it costs you what, $100 million? And if you go by the experience of some of the latest finds like Guyana, well, folklore has it that they dug 47, didn't find any, 48th well you struck. Now, one of my companies, which is a major Indian oil company, ONGC, I have the CMD here with me. In the last year, he has dug over 500 wells. And this is the largest in 37 years. Now, he is doing that with a reasonable expectation that there is oil there, it is coming. I mean, different finds are there. Some we've got 8 million tons of oil equivalent, some different. So I have absolutely no doubt that the E&P story of India today, which is gaining attention because our partners are willing to come in and partner with us as technology providers, as other service providers, with a win-win for both sides. I have been on record to say that in the Andaman Sea, because this energy doesn't remain static in one place, or if it does, you can get it to move, etc. It's a question of persisting, and that there is not only scope for, but I think increasing potential. I mean, when they dig, they've gone up to 2,000 meters, encouraging, they're going down 5,000 meters. I see good things happening. So I think the E&P buzz is there. India also, I'll conclude with one comment. We are not only one of the largest consumers, we are probably third largest consumer, so we are also one of the world's largest refiners. Our refining capacity today, if you took all that is going on, together should be what, 320 million metric tons per annum? And there's talk of raising it to 400. So when it comes to the oil and gas system overall, we come in there as large consumers, large importers, very large on refining capacity, a fair amount of production. Many of my companies share the same mindset as some of my friends around this table. When the oil prices come down, they are not so happy because they are in the business of extracting and exporting.
Yeah.
But I think India today is in major transition, and the energy sector is, I think it provides 19% of the government's revenue, as it is the fourth largest economy, proceeding to be the third largest.
Great. Thanks for the overview on that, by the way. And it's nice to see President Modi hit the goal of making sure everybody had clean cooking supplies. And I've actually had a chance to do a documentary there before I left CNN. It was amazing how fast that was happening, particularly in the LPG. I'm going to ask you the one on how do you balance your climate commitments and the net zero targets for you in India to 2070, I think that is, but also being realistic about that and access to energy that our friend from Africa did talk about here. How do you balance those two priorities? 2 minutes, and I'm going to wrap with Turkey.
Yeah, well, I can be very brief. Insofar as looking at overall energy supplies are concerned, clearly, as a country which is a very large consumer and a very large importer, we welcome the fact that more energy is coming on the global markets. And I think even though you're in an OPEC plus setting, you should also look at the more energy that is coming on the global markets from non-OPEC sources, including in the Western Hemisphere, number one. Number two, insofar as we are concerned, since your questions were on E&P in the traditional energy sector, I didn't tell you about the fact that we've already achieved 20% of biofuel blending, that we are doing great work on CBG, that we are perhaps one of the pioneers in green hydrogen, etc. Insofar as our oil companies are concerned, the national target for net zero is 2070, but all of them are between 2035 and 2045. So all the major fossil fuel dealers are going to be net zero well before the 2070. Insofar as our green transition, we are one of the few countries in the world which has met its Paris commitments. So I have no anxiety on that score. But as I see going forward, since we are in a discussion with OPEC here, we're discussing oil and gas, and our increase in natural gas moving from 6% to 15% in our overall energy mix. Biofuels, we're already at 20%. We were at 1.4% in 2014. We are thinking of going to 25% and further. And green hydrogen, where we have one of the most successful recent tenders floated, and we've been able to bring the price of green hydrogen down below $4. And we have others coming, whereas the price internationally was $5.5. So these are things happening together. So the climate and sustainability concerns sit very well with our overall discussion on energy availability. And by the way, affordability is another area where we have to do well, and we've navigated it quite well.